I have been quite lucky in that companies have mostly approached me. The biggest sort of lead generator that I have in my business is my Instagram account. I have gotten probably like 90% of my work through Instagram, and that's come from building an audience. I'm Jay. I go by Creative Wannabe on Instagram, and that's my website as well. I am an illustrator and a graphic designer, and I currently work from home. I used to work in an office, not doing my own business, but when I've worked in design for a while, and I worked in advertising for a little bit. So I've spent the last few years in offices, and this year I made the jump to go full-time freelance. And so now this is my little office, which is in my bedroom. So yeah. I think the biggest difference for me in terms of like working in an office and the companies that I worked for is the kind of work that I did. So I am a graphic designer by trade, not so much an illustrator, and making that switch to working for myself was really making the jump from graphic design to illustration. So when I worked in graphic design studios, I worked first as a visual designer, designing like websites and apps and stuff like that. When I started the ad agency, I sort of started my own Instagram account because I was really interested in lettering and illustration. And just over time that grew and that snowballed, and now I end up making the jumps that way I could pursue full-time illustration instead of graphic design. I was always a really creative kid, and art was easily my favorite subject. And then when I was in high school, I decided in year, I think 10, to stop taking maths and to take 2 art subjects instead. And everyone was really happy about that. So I ended up studying journalism for a bit, and then I moved into graphic design because I was like, I should have just done graphic design from the beginning. So I was kind of, I knew from a very young age that I was likely to end up in a creative field. I do take on graphic design work, but that's mostly it. Between illustration and graphic design, that's kind of all my time taken up. I did study graphic design. I ended up with 3 separate design degrees. I don't think you have to go to design school, but me personally, I think I was just so unsure about what I was going to do and where my path was leading that I kind of needed all of that time in school to help me figure it out. So it helped me a lot, but more than that, I think starting personal projects and like working on my own stuff, looking up stuff online and taking courses, that has probably prepared me for more real world stuff than I would say university did. It's difficult to say that without actually having experienced becoming an artist without a degree. But I do think that like the things that I've wanted to learn and the things that I'm being paid now to do are a lot of things that I've taught myself. You know, you can teach yourself graphic design fundamentals. And I know that particularly say in like the US or something where a degree costs you the world, you can learn it yourself. So I would feel confident if I had to go back in time that I could end up where I am now without the degree that I have. I really tend to get it from nature. I do spend a lot of my time on Instagram, on Pinterest. I follow a lot of other lettering artists and a lot of other illustrators, and they are an endless source of inspiration for me. I live near a forest, so I drive up there and I sit in like one of the national parks and I draw, or I'll like head to the beach for the sunrise. So I get a lot of inspiration from that and from reading like self-help books and stuff like that. So I find that when I'm looking just at other artists' work constantly, my work ends up becoming too similar to theirs. Just unconsciously, we pick up the stuff that we consume. And so I really try to make a habit of consuming media from all different types of sources, be that books, be it movies, like plays. When we can get out of isolation and back into the world, you know, going to markets and stuff like that, I try to diversify and like live life, because you create art to reflect different situations in life. So you need to live it to be able to do it. I have been quite lucky in that companies have mostly approached me. The biggest sort of lead generator that I have in my business is my Instagram account. I have gotten probably like 90% of my work through Instagram, and that's come from building an audience, which, you know, I'm very lucky to have the audience that I do, and I'm really excited for it to potentially grow more. But I think it's by creating the kind of work that you want to be hired for and just consistently putting it out there and consistently trying to improve, being able to look at your own work critically. I started posting pretty much as soon as I started hand lettering. So I made sort of a promise to myself that I would just post on Instagram anyway, because I needed to like get over this hurdle of not feeling good enough. And so there were a few times I like posted work and I was like, ooh, but I posted pretty consistently, probably like 5-6 times a week for the better part of a year before I started seeing any real traction. I try to avoid those specifically so that way my work doesn't look like everyone else's. I do scroll on Pinterest, I look at Dribbble, I go on Behance. I have a bunch of design books. I have like one wall of my bedroom's covered in a bookshelf, which is just design books. I don't try to actively seek out trends though. It's just sort of what pops up. And you inevitably, when you're on Instagram, you get sucked into trends because everybody else is doing it and it just appears in your feed. But I think that that's sort of enough trend following for me, so I don't actively look for it. When I'm having art block, that's usually a sign for me personally that I need to get out of the house and get away from my work and take a break, because I'm tending to overthink it. So I try to make a conscious effort to actually just not look at anyone's work at all, because that is when you sort of start panicking and you start feeling like a sense of desperation, and that's when you start copying other people without even meaning to. Like, it's never really intentional, but it just sort of happens. So that's when I will be like, I'm going to the market, or I'm going up to the forest, or I'm going to the beach, and I'm just gonna take a break. So at the moment, I'm working with some amazing clients on some long-term projects, and I'm really excited to work with them for as long as possible. I would like to grow my business even more. I just sort of made a range of products, and I end up having to get my cousin to help do all the photo shoots and the editing for that sort of advertising material I was making. And I would love to have people like working for me and being able to, you know, offload some of that work and take on even more fun projects. I have two that I can think of right away. One is to start a passion project. Whatever you're interested about, I love seeing the ways people combine their separate interests. So I would suggest that, like, no matter what your interest is, figure out a way to sort of mesh them together and start a passion project and start developing some sort of a base. And my second one is to, particularly if you are still in school or in university or whatever, take on as much client work as you can. I took on literally every single job that was thrown at me through all of my years of school, and I'm so grateful that I did, because I learned how to talk to clients, I learned how to present my ideas to clients. So any project you can, even if you think it's a flop or it's boring or whatever, like, you will come away a better designer, a better illustrator for it, because the more experience you can get, the better. Thank you for having me.